What's up, guys? Welcome to the Linecheck podcast. It's me, your host, Brennan Villarreal, and today I'm in the studio with Kevin Porter. What's up, Kevin?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming along.
Oh, I'm feeling pretty good about this.
Yeah, so Kevin is a sales distributor for small businesses that usually are coffee shops or any kind of type of business in that spectrum.
Small business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Retail, food industry, usually. Sometimes bike shops.
Yeah, and also, fun fact is Kevin is or was a pro BMX rider. Are you technically still are? Because you could still ride.
I am a...
You just don't like...
Yes, I am a retired professional bike rider, and I still ride today, but
he does
not as much as I should be.
Because you have a daughter now.
Yeah,
and
it's
you
dangerous.
just don't want to get hurt.
No, I have arthritis.
Okay.
Advanced arthritis, so I had to retire at an earlier age than normal. I'm still riding though, and I kind of bear with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's interesting because you are from Chicago, and it's cool because I just did a collab dinner with a Michelin star restaurant from Chicago called Kasama, which is the first Filipino Michelin star restaurant ever in the world. So I thought that was cool, a little tongue-in-cheek. You know, I have
keep the Chicago thing going.
Yeah, keep the Chicago thing going.
Man, Chicago's culinary industry is, I still think, the best in the world.
Yeah.
I'm vegan. I've been vegan since I was 16, but I can tell the care and attention that Chicago puts in. I think maybe it has to do with a few different things. First, there's like Restaurant Row. I think a lot of big time chefs come out of different culinary schools and they go to Chicago to test the waters. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of these amazing places open up, and then people get the experience of working with these incredible chefs, and then they go and do their own little thing. We were just talking about the Bear.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of what it's like in Chicago. Honestly, when I watch the Bear, I feel like I'm at home.
That's awesome.
And by the way, I'm from Chicago. I'm just remotely located in LA.
Yeah, he's an LA guy now.
I will never claim Long Beach. I will never claim California. I'm a Chicago boy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super rad. I've only been to Chicago once. I had one of the best times there. Went to, I don't even remember the names of like the bars I went to, but every place was unique in its own way. And good. The food was really good. And like going back to the vegan food being like a thing now, more so in like fine establishments. 11 Madison Park just got 3 Michelin stars, and they're a vegan restaurant.
Yeah, plant-based is coming, man. It's going to come with force too, because for global warming's sake. Mm-hmm. Like I went to a wedding not that long ago from my friend Colin. He's a prominent kind of bio soil chemist. It's hard to explain, but he's studying fungi and soil, and he's doing this research. There's actually a TED Talk. You can find it. Colin Averill. So I went to his wedding, and the entire wedding was vegan. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know everybody here was vegan. It's 100 people. They're like, oh, they're not vegan because they want to be vegan. They're vegan because they have to. Global warming is a thing. Mm-hmm. So they've all taken the initiative of just going full plant-based to help the environment. Well, they're doing other things that are amazing for the environment. Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy.
That's cool. I mean, I always think about how I think a cook should know how to make vegetables great.
Well, yeah.
More than meat. Meat's pretty easy, but
yeah,
if you don't know how to cook vegetables the right way or make it taste great.
Yeah.
Or even just like make a dish out of all vegetables and highlight a vegetable in its prime season.
Yeah.
Like that's, I think that's really delicious that way. And that's the way that I like to cook, you know?
So Keller College? I forget the name of it. It's in Chicago. It's a really big culinary school. It's been a while. I think 2013, I went there and did a coffee demonstration. And while I was there, I was pretty impressed. They had an entire leg of plant-based food cooking. And it's this thing, like plant-based foods are, when I started being vegan, I was 16. I did it because of a natural thing with being ethical to animals. It has nothing to do with health or anything like that, but it's transformed over time. The more I research, the more I understand that I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but God, I could be way off. Maybe after this life, somebody's like, man, these things were made
wrong.
for you. Yeah. I'm cool with that, which is why anybody that comes up to me is like, oh, I'm sorry I'm eating this meat. And I'm like, no, man, I don't give a shit what you eat. You have to entertain yourself in this world, but I'm not going to do it. But when I was at the college teaching them, I was seeing that a lot of these culinary chefs are coming out of college with at least 20% interest in developing their menus for someone like me. I mean, I'm going to go to really nice restaurants with my wife. I'm going to sit at this restaurant. My wife loves to dine out. She's a foodie. We should both be able to partake. And I don't see why every menu can't have at least 20% of the menu catered to 20% of the population.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. And I get it. Everybody has their way with how they want to create their menu. So it's weird when I go to a restaurant and they're like, no vegan stuff here.
I mean, I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah. Why? You have all the ingredients to make one meal, and salad is not a meal.
No, that's
if you were a meat
that's
eater,
a starter. No.
Yeah, if you were a meat eater and you went to a restaurant and they told you all you can eat is the salad, how do you think you're going to feel? You're probably not going to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having vegan options is I don't like the word options. I like the word of like a dedicated dish that is vegan.
Yeah.
On the menu, not an option.
Plant-based.
Because I want everyone to eat it.
Let's say
not
plant-based.
just I want everyone to eat it. You don't have to be vegan.
Yeah.
Or
should be for
plant-based to
everybody.
eat it. This is a dish that is plant-based and it's
Totally
for
agree.
everyone to order. Not
Thank
just,
you for being
it.
a chef and having that.
Yeah. I mean, I love cooking with vegetables.
Chicago versus LA. I mean, I was impressed in Chicago. I have a friend there. His name's Daniel Stackman. He owns the company Upton's Naturals, which is, he's never actually admitted that Upton's is named after Upton St. Clair. But Upton St. Clair wrote a book about the meat industry in Chicago, which is another reason why Chicago is a massive food place, because it was at one time catering to the entire country with meat.
Yeah.
The back of the yards is actually where I lived and grew up. But Upton St. Clair wrote a book about the meat industry, and it inadvertently turned into kind of a vegan, proclamation or something. And when I was living there with him, we kind of were going back and forth about ways to go to culinary, professionals and be like, hey, here's a menu of items you can add to your menu to kind of make things different. And Daniel and I started making like bacons and stuff for my own cafe. I actually went to the Rib Fest in Chicago. I entered the Rib Fest, and everybody I was talking to was like, are you crazy? That is a legacy festival where people in Chicago are fighting for the best rib in town. And I was like, yeah, there's no vegan anything. You think 5,000 people, there's going to be no vegans coming to this thing? I mean, if you're a staunch vegan and you're trying to protest maybe, but I've got 100 friends that are probably going to be there asking me to come. So screw this, I'm going to bring a vegan rib. So I met with Daniel. That's kind of where we became friends. And I asked him to make me 350 pounds of ribs. And he's like, you're crazy. There's no way you're going to sell that much. And I was like, I promise, I'm going to do it.
What was it made out of?
Seitan. And we used Black Cat Espresso from Intelligentsia to give it sort of
the bold.
Yeah, kind of give it some bitterness.
Smoky, bitter.
Yeah. And then I use Sweet Baby Ray's because it's vegan, and it's a, kind of everybody knows it. So you're going to eat it, you're like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lose out putting Sweet Baby Ray's on there, right? So in the First day we sold out. All 350 pounds gone. And I had a big sign up that said vegan ribs. And every single person there was like, oh, I have to try that. Like, everybody has kind of the same ribs, and there are little nuances that make them different. Some are smoked, some are roasted, whatever. But mine was vegan. And really the only difference between a vegan rib at that time and a real rib when you have Sweet Baby Ray's on is texture.
Yeah.
So it was a success. And Daniel after that was like, oh my God, this is whatever you want, whenever you want it, we'll do it, you know? So when I opened my coffee shop, I was doing a lot of like classic bacon with made of seitan. We had empanadas and calzones.
Nice.
Yeah, so my shop was all vegan, and it got a lot of attention for that. Mm-hmm. But boy, was it a nightmare.
What was like the pros and cons of opening a cafe?
So, let's talk about how that opened.
Yeah, how'd that open?
So I was a professional bike rider from when I was 14 was when I got my first sponsor, and I have worked with hundreds of companies. Mm-hmm. When you're a sponsored athlete, you're kind of in marketing. So I have this talent, but I also have to curate who I am to the industry, and that sort of went with the ebbs and flows of like how people perceive me, how I thought people perceive me. So I'm like, I have this really core following. How can I get paid to be inspiration to them? Because I could tell it's inspiration. I'm getting people asking me questions about my riding and giving me affirmations about it. So as I'm riding, I'm getting sponsors. I'm learning like, okay, this sponsor is not, it doesn't align with my feelings about life, you know? Like it's got to be someone that I can truly dig my teeth into and be happy that I represent them. And I did that for many years. Every year was like different sponsors, like shoe sponsors and pants. And sometimes I'd ride for companies for free just because I thought they were awesome. I want to advocate for you. Others where I'm like, you're asking me to do a lot. I should probably get paid for this. When I was 26, Red Bull had a bunch of athletes that they do like black and white marketing where they have one Red Bull athlete that's decorated and one that's not. Mm-hmm. And they kind of bring these crews around, and you get treated like a Red Bull athlete, but you're not a Red Bull athlete. So at that time I was like, I'm 26 years old. I drink coffee everywhere I go. If I'm in like Riga, Latvia or Estonia or, London, I leave to go drink coffee. Mm-hmm. I'm a coffee drinker at this point. I'm going to reach out to some coffee companies and see if they want to sponsor me, because nobody in the world was sponsored by coffee. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I was like Starbucks, but that place is maybe 35% of the industry. No, thank you. And all the coffee is just so burnt. And they have to, because I'm not talking shit about their burnt coffee. There's a place for it. But when I met the guys at Intelligentsia, I met the head roaster. His name was Curtis. He's one of the best roasters in the entire planet, in my opinion. He was at Intelligentsia for 14 years. Intelligentsia is a Chicago-based company, one of the pioneers of third wave coffee, arguably one of the most intelligent coffee companies that's ever existed at that time. There was a sort of shift later down the road, but the owner happened to be a bike rider. He was a road bike rider. So when we met, I just proposed the idea of being an ambassador for Intelligentsia. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'd love to represent your brand. I actually didn't get paid. Instead, I asked him, in return, I'll wear your branding at the Dew Tour or wherever I'm at. I'm going to have Intelligentsia, everything. I'm going to tell everybody I know, this is the coffee that I support, mm-hmm. because I think what you guys do is incredible. And everybody at Intelligentsia at that time was like the best. There were 8 world champion baristas working for them at this point. Yeah, and I was just like, this is it. I I got the best education I could get in coffee. I was cupping with this guy, Jeff Watts, who's arguably one of the best coffee buyers of all time, green coffee. He's one of the pioneers of direct trade, changing kind of the dynamic of how coffee's bought and traded. And then, so I was like sending people into Intelligentsia all the time. And I started thinking like, man, I should have my own coffee shop. This is silly. Like I could send people into my own coffee shop and have them drink Intelligentsia. So in the second year, I aligned with Intelligentsia and opened the coffee shop. I bought like this place called Stubbs. It was dying. Like I walked into it, I was like, man, this is like a ship at sea that hasn't seen light of day.
What location was that in?
It was in a place called North Center. It was on Lincoln and Grace, just north of Addison, kind of close to Wrigley Field.
Cool.
Not my favorite place. I'm a Sox fan. So yeah, after owning my own coffee shop, selling coffee and riding bikes, imagine you talk about being in the weeds. I was in the weeds. I had my bank, my bar, my house, everything within a 5-minute walk.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I was like, back in 2007, you did everything by cash. So every day I'd have to drop the money off at the bank and put it in the little slip and then go to Costco and Restaurant Depot and run around like a chicken with his head cut off, standing in lines at Costco waiting for a line of 16 families who are buying way too much groceries. Yeah. And
a week's worth of food.
I was up at 4:30 in the morning baking. I was there. I owned it with my ex-wife and my former sister-in-law, who's now married to my best friend, Robbie. We loved working there, but, when we separated, obviously it had to go.
Yeah.
But that really set me up for understanding how small businesses work.
And how hard it is.
Yeah. And, yeah, so the education of Intelligentsia, like espresso extraction theory, understanding what solubles are when you brew coffee, what an under and over extracted coffee is. And
can you explain those terms?
Yeah.
To people that don't know coffee?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know coffee that much.
So
I'd probably offend you if I drink Folgers.
No, that's that's the first wave of coffee. So
Folgers Instant.
We wouldn't be here without Folgers. Folgers Instant was really bad, but they came up with some awesome slogans.
Yeah.
Folgers in your cup.
Commercials.
Yeah, and then Starbucks and Pete's came around and created second wave. Your barista, your third home. Mm-hmm. It's like I go to work, I go home. Instead of going to the bar, I go to the coffee bar. So they created the current culture we have with coffee shop quality.
Yeah, that's interesting. You never thought about that.
And then third wave is, Intelligentsia, Stumptown, Blue Bottle, and they bring a whole nother element of quality. Second wave companies are arguing now that third wave coffees are just improving on their practices. Mm-hmm. And there's people out there talking about fourth wave, and I want to I don't know what to say about it. I was like, stop it. Understand what third wave is before you tell me you're fourth wave. And the funny part is people that advocate that they're a third wave coffee shop sometimes aren't. They're more of a second and a half wave. If we're selling tons and tons of sugar in the drink, we're taking away a little bit of the whole process, which is 52 touch points from
You're oversaturating what the taste of the coffee is supposed to be like.
You ask a farmer if they want to have a sugary latte, and the farmer's going to laugh because they put in, 5,000 hours of production. Mm-hmm. They don't want their coffee to be destroyed with milk. Although, I'm not going to discredit anybody that drinks however you want to drink it. But if you're going to claim third wave, you better have a damn good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
drip coffee.
Yeah, and that's my. I was telling you that earlier. It's hard for me to find a good drip coffee.
Yeah.
I only have a few select that I like.
To elaborate on solubles, when you extract coffee, the compounds of the coffee, it looks like a coffee bean. You know, like imagine inside of a coffee bean, there's a little jail cell.
Mm-hmm.
And inside the jail cell are these little like McDonald's play balls mixed with, golf balls and tiny little marbles. And each one of those things is a different kind of compound. You know, there's lipids, there's like acids and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates make up majority of the coffee bean. As you pour water over it, the cell opens, and that's sort of all those balls kind of come falling out. If an incorrect way of brewing, when you open the cell, you didn't open it all the way. The water wasn't hot enough. The cell dripped out, and all that came out were the marbles and the golf balls, not the fats like chocolate. So, you know, an under-extracted coffee is generally a lot of acid. It's the little marbles and stuff like that. Over-extracted, you brought out too much carbohydrates. So you end up having this cup of coffee that tastes almost like grass or like a green. It's not a green taste. It's hard to explain what that tastes like.
But I think I know what you're talking about because I'm sorry again, had a cold brew last night from Costco.
Oh, wow.
Kirkland Costco cold brew can.
I bet it was great.
It was not great at all. It was disgusting.
Everybody says Kirkland is so great.
And you know what's funny is
I don't think so.
I work next to Endorphin.
Good old Jack.
You know, and I just was too late to go get the cold brew from there. So then my friend was like, here, I have this cold brew for us. It's
Jack's great.
Kirkland cold brew.
So how'd it taste?
Oh, it was just like muddy, like.
Yeah, over extracted.
Like very hard roast. Very, very dark.
That's the other thing. The roast plays into this so much because a coffee company like Starbucks, I have no discredit to them. They have to produce 35% of a $46 billion industry. It's impossible to roast light roasted coffee for 35% of the world or of the United States. So they roast their coffee at a really short time and a really hot temperature. It's like
for faster consumption.
Yeah, kind of like steak. If you burn steak at a really high temperature, it'll burn to the core, but it'll be like carcinogens. Where a Vienna roast, which is more traditional to the world because Europeans kind of set the pace with espresso, that's more of a lower temperature, longer period up to this thing called second crack. It's where the bean cracks in the roaster and gives you like these beautiful little, like I think sugar comes out of that. Don't quote me on this. My roasting has been a long time, but we need both. We need the singed coffee drinkers. We need the Vienna roast coffee drinkers. We need the fruit and floral, high soluble coffee drinkers. Because if we're not drinking all of it, we're leaving the farmers drying up their fields. And I think it's funny when I start talking to a roaster and they're like, oh yeah, screw that company. Why would we do that? You know, we're cooler, we're better than them. You know, not necessarily. You might argue, you know, like some of Stumptown Intelligentsia, they sold some of their business to Pete's, mainly because when you get to that size, it's very hard to get money from the banks. You want to keep doing what you're doing, but the bank is dried up. So you got to kind of tap into a bigger company that understands, that wants to help, as long as they leave you alone. Stumptown actively helped put in a pipe. Don't quote me on this, but they actively helped put in a pipe in Honduras that produces some of the best Honduran coffees that these third wave roasters are buying. And I'll be sitting with them and they'll be talking shit about Stumptown. And I'm like, amazing. Understanding the world you're in, it's ever changing and there's a lot of variables, but that's the kind of reality I live in every day.
Yeah. I mean, you go to so many coffee shops too, you know.
Yeah.
That all source from different roasters and
every
even
coffee
roast their own
shop
beans.
in town I've been in.
Yeah, every. What's your top 3 favorite coffee shops right now in Long Beach?
In Long Beach?
Yeah.
Well, Rose Park
Keep it.
for sure.
Okay, that's mine.
I love Nathan and Andrew. They do an incredible job. And
They're like the OG coffee shop of Long
Yeah.
Beach.
And they care.
Before the coffee shop boom.
They care
They do. They care a lot.
way too much sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you guys are really, really dedicated.
But that's
to
why
it.
they've been around in business for 10 years.
I actually think they should be bigger. I
They
want
should
them to
be
be bigger.
bigger.
Not bigger like conglomerate.
But just like,
Yeah. I think it's a good place to work, and I think if they had the amplitude, they could give more to the baristas and do more for the community. But, they're trying. Everybody's trying.
everyone's trying, yeah.
There's other people that try less, do more, or get more and do less, like
Yes.
kind of the dynamic. But
And I don't go to those coffee
that's
shops.
why, that's okay. So let's fast forward to now. I've worked for 9 coffee companies. After Intelligentsia, I retired from BMX, and I became the head of sales at Metropolis, a very large coffee company in Chicago that was Intelligentsia's main competition.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for a small company in between called Botras. I don't regret it, but I could say I regret it because politics of the ownership. But during my time at Botras, I was able to collect so much data on Chicago coffee. I basically canvassed the entire city with an Excel file and found every bit of coffee in it. There was like 2,700 coffee programs. And then I brought it to Metropolis and was like, hey, this is what I have. What do you think? I could do a good job for you. I already know half of your businesses, 78 of these accounts are unhappy with Metropolis, and there's 120 that are unhappy with Intelligentsia. We can change that. So the owner, took me under his wing, turned me into a sales guru because he's an amazing He's an amazing coffee company owner. His name's Tony Dreyfus. He's a very compassionate human being. I mean, the entire coffee roastery had like all kinds of different people from all walks of life, like refugees, disabled people. Like, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful company. I worked for them for about 4 years. I opened about 500 coffee shops with them, including Hog Salt, which you can find Project X there. I was a big part of Project X. It's a huge part of Chicago now.
What's Project X?
Project X is Brendan Sodakoff's kind of coffee, like pet coffee thing.
Okay.
Brendan Sodakoff used to work for Let Us Entertain You, and he owns like Auchabal, Bavette's, Gilt Bar, Sawada Coffee. He's a heavy influence in Chicago.
Dang.
He won the Auchabal hamburger of the Bon Appetit best hamburger or something.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the hoss. I felt very privileged and honored to be working for them, and they, gave me the respect and admiration of being their coffee, consultant. So seeing it still there and working, it makes me so happy.
How long has it been open for?
They've been around for over a decade.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time.
Dang.
And Hiroshi Sawada, if you have the chance to go to the Green Street Cafe, I think there's one in New York now. He's a world champion latte artist. So getting to work with him was cool too.
That's cool.
Super crazy. He when he makes his latte, it's like thousands of lines. Like, he's all about having tons of lines, not just little. Yeah.
Picture animals or something like that.
So I was actually selling coffee to the Soho House. I was in their RFP. They were kind of going around, and I met some of the folks from Verve, and then they kind of went back to LA, and they were like, this guy Kevin, he's really good. We should hire him. And at that time, I was I was telling you earlier, I had like arthritis. My arthritis was diagnosed with this thing called ankylosing spondylitis. My back is fusing. So I have advanced arthritis in many parts of my body. So when I can't ride, it's because it's active. Chicago weather is
The cold.
brutal
Yeah.
on it. It'll be active for 6 months where I can't get out of bed
Jeez.
for 10 minutes. So being able to move to California was a little more tempered. The barometric pressure is not as heavy, and my body has smaller active arthritic flare-ups. So moving to LA, I worked for Verve, which is kind of like a new Intelligentsia. It was.
Yeah,
Kinda
they
had
have the location in Arts District.
Yeah. Beautiful cafes.
Yeah.
Very integrally driven coffee buying, like everything about their business I truly adored. So I was like, this is a great home for me. Even if I'm not making tons of money, it's like a place that I could be proud of. And I know that under the hood, it's all good, which is a big part of the companies I pick. Like if somebody came and questioned my sales, like I'm selling you Metropolis, and they came into the warehouse to like question Metropolis or Verve, they're squeaky clean and beautiful, and they treat their employees great. Well, at least I think they do. But I'm sure there's things I don't know about that weren't great. But sorry, this is a long story, isn't it?
You went to Verve after your arthritis because it was easier in California.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to be the sales director for Verve in Southern California. And I did the same exact thing I did at Metropolis. I combed through the entire city of shops. I met everybody. I made a list, and I took notes of every single shop I went into. And then when I kind of got finished with coffee for a while, I wanted to try and sell to hotels. Because you think a hotel is like 6 cafes.
Yeah.
6 cafes, back of house, you're talking huge. I did the RFP, which is the request for proposal, for the Wynn, for the Venetian, for the Montage, and one other, PGN, which is like the Meritage Paseo one. Getting to see what it's like selling coffee at a hotel is mind-boggling. It's contract work, it's all that stuff. I ended up working for a company out of Australia that's very into hotels. And that's an 80-year-old company that puts out 500 million cups of coffee a day. They own 47% of the Australian market. I got to see coffee on crack.
Basically, yeah.
Like I got to go to the roastery. I got to walk around. I was like a kid in a candy store. Like, oh my God, look at how big this place is. I got to listen to the owner and his stories. His name's Les Scarrato. They call him the Coffee King. And he was dubbed
Coffee King of Australia.
Yeah, he was dubbed by the French council for his he was knighted. Yeah. And yeah, getting to work with them was like, yeah, I learned a lot about sales.
That's
coffee
awesome.
sales. And the pandemic hit. So I went into consulting for coffee roasters. I've probably consulted 5 or 6 coffee roasters now. And it dawned on me that I should be working for a supplier. And I thought about it, and that thought went away. It was like a fleeting thought. And Shoreline actually, Kyle, the owner, hit me up, is like, hey, do you know anybody that'd be good for LA? And I was like, I might be good for LA. The purpose of working for them is it expands my network.
Yeah.
It lets me take my network to the max. So as your supplier, I could come in and I could consult you on I could tell you everything I've seen.
Everything you need.
Everything I've seen in coffee, I could tell you, and it's yours as long as you buy from us.
Yeah.
If you're running to Restaurant Depot or Costco, one, are you truly a third wave coffee shop?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the items you're buying there aren't the same dedication that you're getting with your coffee. And 2, I get it. Cost is a problem. Like if I got to make sure my costs are low, but you're paying for gas, you're paying for your time. Your efforts could be better served in your shop. And the cost we have at Shoreline is sort of the market cost. So if we if we work together, I'll maximize your profits so that you have the right price coming in and it's paying the bills.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up becoming like a freaking, like I said, I'm just doing everybody's economics now.
That's good because everybody, like when I was taught to, when I ever order like in bulk of like dry goods or anything that you need for like the restaurant, I would always order like in large bulk.
Yeah, lots.
Because it's not going to go bad. You have a place to store it, and you just order like maybe every 2 months, every 3 months.
You should be ordering well ahead of what you need, especially in today's economy.
You never know if it'll be out, and you don't want to run out.
Okay, so couple things. If you're a small business and you're opening up a coffee shop, location is everything. Location is the number one thing, hands down. Your ability to market could help a location if it's not full, like, 200 cars driving by or 50 people walking by every hour. Like if the location isn't strong, then your marketing could be better. Like Canyon Coffee, they're extremely packed every day up in Echo Park. The space, I drove by it for years. It was dormant. There was a place called Conga there, and I drove by it so much thinking, man, if I was going to open a coffee shop, that's where I'd do it, because the traffic that goes by, there's thousands of cars that drive right by it. The neighborhood is a drought of coffee. There's like coffee's there, but it's just not accessible. I was like, if a really influential coffee brand came here with, the right mechanism, this location and that could be worth a lot of money. And I watch Canyon come in and I go by them every once in a while. I'm just like, every time the line around the door, I was like smashing it. That's exactly what you should be looking for. But a lot of these people are like, oh, that's the spot. That's it. That's going to be it. And then they get in there and they realize it's not it. And then they try everything with marketing and they're just squeezed to bits. And that's what makes them start running around, turning the menu into a million things, listening to every customer and saying that's what my customers want, which is something you got to do. But you should maybe listen to see if it comes up multiple times, not just one customer.
Yeah.
One customer is good to try and take care of them if it's an easy thing, but, I'm sure you get that a lot.
Don't bend to the wheel.
Yeah. You want to like curate what you think is good for the community, but also listening to the community, but also like being practical. A lot of coffee shops, they make their own syrup, and that's cool. I think it's cool to have your own, unique style on how you season your drinks. But if you're talking about doing that in 5 or 6 shops, the consistency is going to be all over the damn place. And what's the point of that? Most of those baristas,
also time and labor.
Yeah, those baristas don't love sitting around making your syrup because you think it's better when they are probably happy with some of the syrups that are sold out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way that at least I think about it. I mean, I'm sure the other chefs disagree with it, but like, I'm not going to go make my own Dijon mustard.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just going to go buy it.
Yeah, and you're going to get
this the best version of it.
Yeah. And there are syrup companies out there that are very proud of their syrup, and they're very healthy. Natural sugars, if you do your time right in investigating those companies, you don't have to keep those syrups in the same bottle. Change them over to your artisanal looking bottles. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't agree with a lot of the things that happen. I think that at a time it was cool and it was probably unique, but the trends inside the coffee house, they're insane.
I mean, like, everyone is trying to make business work, and there's places that you can cut corners, but then there's like a weird part of being an owner where you're like, well, this is like my flagship.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that because it makes me not unique.
That's my other tip outside of the location is just because you like it doesn't mean your customer likes it. It's insanity when I sell a lot of alternative milks Califia is a really powerful brand in LA. So is
Great.
Ghost Town. It's a barista collective. So baristas put time into making this flavor, and it is very specific to LA baristas, which I think is arguably a lot like the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
There's also Oddly Good and, Minor Figures, and Oatly was the first
OG
wave
one, yeah.
Yeah. All of them are great. But when I put them in front of a customer or, in front of the business owner, and they're like, oh, I only like this one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, well, that one's probably going to come with some problems because it's in a Tetra Pak and it's a brand new company. It might not make it. It might have trouble with supply.
Yeah, you might not always have it available.
Yeah. The way I look at it is like you should really split these apart. There's sweetened ones and there's non-sweetened ones, and I think you should just try to build your flavors around that, because every one of them is in a Tetra Pak, and every one of them is going to experience one or two outages. It doesn't matter who you are; it's in a Tetra Pak. Tetra Paks all have to go through the same process in the same factories. It's a co-packer. Some companies buy the co-packing rights and do it, and they have more control over it, which is great, but all the chais, all the milks, everything that's in a Tetra Pak may experience a drought at some point.
Yeah.
The factories may argue with me, but it's more complex than that. It's a matter of forecasting. It's a matter of supply. There's a lot of things that go on there.
Yeah, so let's go back to BMXing.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to know more about that stuff
Cool.
too.
Hopefully I didn't bore everybody. I mean,
you know what? I drink coffee every single day, and I love coffee, and I need it to survive.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
But I've never really been a big coffee nerd, and I think it's because I'm already cooking,
That's how I am with wine. I won't do it.
I mean, yeah, same as wine too. I'm like, oh, I can tell you the notes that I'm tasting, but I'm not gonna come and tell you the terms or try and figure out.
That's
the
the
terms
best
of them,
thing ever about being a chef or being a coffee or being in wine, being a beer person. Once you develop a palate, it's universal.
Mm-hmm.
I could bring my coffee palate over to wine, no problem.
Yeah.
Same with food.
I was shucking some oysters yesterday, and we put finger limes, squeeze a finger lime into the oyster, and from a far off distance, finger limes smell like fruity pebbles. In the distant, but not if up close. Doesn't smell like fruity pebbles.
I know that smell.
Yeah, and
it's awesome.
I love fruity pebbles, so it makes me want to go buy some fruity pebbles after this.
It's funny, you smell more things than you taste. There's way more descriptors for smell. I actually, this is ridiculous, but I told you I grew up on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
I was in LA somewhere. I'm not going to say where. I was in LA. I parked my car. I was walking into a shop, and I smelled a must of cat piss, human piss, and rotting wood. And I said, oh, this reminds me of home.
Jeez. I do not like
but it's like
human piss on a sidewalk is, I think.
But it was like a weird
combination.
Is this what reminds me of home? I was like, well, I actually know exactly why, because that area of town is where you find a lot of stray cats and homeless people.
So did you invent any tricks?
I would say I invented them. I think the idea of inventing something is pretty ridiculous because humans invented things. I think I played on to many other characteristics from other people, and I put the collaboration together, and I feel like sometimes I was sort of in the height of bringing the awareness.
Yeah.
But that was my whole thing with riding. First of all, BMX, I love it. It's like my life. I was doing it since I was 9, and I remember going to the trails. There were these trails by my house. I was already riding bikes and jumping ramps in front of my house, but the day I found the trails, I swear I was like, you could not talk to me anymore. My life is zoned in on those trails. Everything about those trails, everything that's going on in that place. And I was there twice a day, and it was like a 25-minute ride to the trails. And I would do it twice a day.
Sounds so fun.
Yeah, I'd come home and eat dinner, and then I'd fly back, and then I'd stay there till night, and then we go ride street all over. I was obsessed with bikes. But, you know, as I became a professional bike rider, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be pro. I'm still confused. I'm still not 100% sure how to define somebody as a pro. It's a question that was proposed to me once, and they're like, it's somebody who gets paid for what they do. And I was like, what if you don't want to get paid for it and you're just fucking brilliant at it? You know, I bet there's some artists out there that were like, no, I don't need your money.
Well, it's also funny, like some authors
Yeah.
who die
and then
become famous.
Yeah. So are they professional authors at the time that they were alive? Yeah, I think it's a combination of things like your dedication, your loyalty, and your experience and your talent. Mm. And if that gets you paid, I don't think that that's the determining factor. But I've been in deep arguments about it, and I was like, I would argue that half the time I was like, man, I don't really want to ask for money. I need money to be able to do this. I need support. And it's the last thing I want to talk about is money. I followed my heart into that world. And it was like, I had these magazine pictures up on my wall. Like my favorite bikers, Taj Mahal, Helich, Joe Rich, Garrett Burns, like Christopher. These are people that I adored as a young kid. And like, I would go to the trails and try to do exactly what they're doing. And then the next thing I know, I'm like doing shows with the local hero, you know, the guy I was looking up to there. I'm hanging out at the skate park with the other local hero that's a little bit more famous. And they're asking me to hang out with them. And one thing led to another. I'm at a contest in Florida and all of them are there.
Yeah.
And I'm in the same class as them. And I'm like, when it came to like getting into the X Games and I'm standing on the roll-in and I see Ryan Nyquist, Dave Mira, you know, the greatest BMXers of my time, TJ Lavin. There's just, I'm looking around, they're like, Porter, what's up? Like they all know my name. I'm like, oh shit, I think I made it. You know, it's like, I'm more of a stylish rider. I always cared about the style. It's like anybody can do the trick, but it's a matter of how you do the trick. It's a matter of how you present the trick. And that was always really important to me. So I was very particular about that. But as I matured in BMX, like into my 20s, I was like, I knew that I had a following. And I knew that following was like paying close attention to the little details because of that style. So I was like, how do I create something that everybody can do that's going to have fun with it they've never seen before? And that was my driving force for many years. It was like sitting at the skate park for days and hours trying to find that trick, just putting my feet and hands and legs and things places and just playing with things until something popped. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. And then I mature it. And before there was the internet, well, the internet was around, but it was like no Instagram on your pocket.
Yeah, there's no mobile phone.
Yeah, it would be like, so do you know what a hippie hop is on a skateboard?
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example. I wanted to do that on my bike since I was 7 because I saw a skateboarder do it. And there was one day I was like, I'm gonna do that freaking trick because nobody's doing it. No, I've never seen it done. And I think I was like 24 or something. So I was at Woodward, Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful camp in Pennsylvania for extreme sports. I was there as a visiting pro, and there was this guy, Dave Malinsky, who's like does all the building. He's a skateboarder. I told him one day, I was like, man, I'd love to do a hippie hop on a bike. And I think I could do it. I've been playing with it. I think I could do it. He's like, I'm going to build you a hippie hop post. So he went and built like basically a bunny hop post. If I hit the post, it knocks over, so it's safe. I started trying it, and all the kids from Woodward were like getting around because I was getting close. next thing I knew, the entire camp was there.
Oh, shoot.
And I literally pulled the first one, and it was like bananas.
Dang.
And then that day, I called up my friend Rob, and I had been taking photos for my Dig interview, which is an international publication at the time. It's probably one of the biggest BMX magazines on earth. And I called Rob, and I was like, hey, Delecki, meet me in Philadelphia. We're going to go shoot a photo. And he met me. It was like 9:30 at night. I had to drive like 4 hours. We found a chain. I did a hippie hop, and it ended up on the cover of the magazine.
Dang.
And it was like so big. It like just ripped across the world, like people doing hippie hops. It's not that hard.
Yeah, explain to like the audience what that is. Like, yeah.
It's basically your bike goes under and you go over, and you just kind of jump off your bike and land. It's pretty dope.
It's like some Keanu Reeves 90s action movie.
Yeah, and then it got better. Like over time, I did this thing called I called it the McFly.
Mm-hmm.
I basically had my bike go under a dock, and I ran across the dock and then landed on my bike.
That's cool.
Yeah, today, like that kind of creative stuff. There's so many riders today that are doing stuff that's just constantly bringing out little things. You're like, whoa, there's this guy, Tate, out of Utah. He's awesome. He takes his wheels pop off and he puts them back on. It's pretty cool.
Dang.
Yeah. He does all kinds of
like
fun
Harry
shit.
Houdini.
But, when I was riding, he would have come up to me. He's like, oh, man, you're like one of my favorite riders. And I was like, you're incredible. You're my favorite rider, And today I look at him, I'm like, wow, what is he doing? He's definitely my favorite rider.
I'm not really like very well versed in BMX riding, and I surf a lot.
Yeah.
And I also like skateboarded a little bit.
Yeah, I
back
see
in the
you.
day.
I see you.
And in like my head of the way that you're like describing you think about your style.
Yeah.
And then the tricks that you've done. I'm placing you in my head as like a Rodney Mullen / Rob Machado
Yes.
type of bike rider. Am I right?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I have big tricks like Rob Machado, like
Rob Machado.
Machado. I have his board, and I can't.
Stylish.
Yeah, but
guy
he
too.
could kind of go big,
slow,
right?
Easy, yeah.
And Rodney Mullen.
He makes it look easy when he rides big waves.
Yeah, Rodney Mullen's a lot of ground stuff, but I think more Reggie Jackson, more so. You know him from Australia. He's nuts. He used to live in Long Beach.
Oh, really?
Richie Jackson. Richie or Reggie Jackson?
Skateboarding? Or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, like in skateboarding, like Ed Templeton and Costin, those are my favorite
Eric
skaters.
Costin.
Yeah, I like their style. I ride a lot of bowls and pools, and I have a huge ramp in my backyard
That you built.
that I built during COVID. I call it the COVID Bowl.
COVID bowl.
I have this, like, I was gifted like a beautiful life because of BMX. I'm very grateful for it. And I never ever wanted to take it for granted. So anytime I could be helpful to a bike rider or, assist somebody in some way, I was all about that. And I know that a lot of people ask me to ride, post more stuff of riding, and I want to every day. And I come home from work, doing all this stuff for coffee, and I'm like, oh, God, I should ride. There's this thing in the back of my head, like, you should be riding, you should ride more. And the anxiety just is crushing. Sometimes it, like, makes me look like I'm roaming around the house, like, trying to get up the motivation. So having a ramp in the backyard at least gives me, I'll take a couple laps and like, okay, today I'm not feeling it. And then sometimes I'm like feeling it and I'll film on the ramp. But I ride the ramp sometimes 5 to 10 minutes a day, or sometimes I'll get an hour session in. But, whenever I can go out and ride and hang out with friends, I do. But it's just, I'm getting older and it's getting harder and my body doesn't love it. If I go riding for a good hour, I'm not walking well for the next 3 days, 3 to 7 days. Yeah, it sucks.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've been having this feeling as I've started running for marathons.
Which is incredible, by the
Yeah,
way.
and I've been I've always been a competitive person. I love doing sports, anything, surfing, football, MMA, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm 32 now. I got like probably 7 years left to run in my life, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe more. We'll see. It just depends on my body. You
Stretch.
never know.
Stretch.
So it's like I have this. Now's the time to like do all the things I want to do and like have an active life before
Fully.
my body won't let me do it anymore.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
So yeah. So that's like my mindset. I'm gonna get these 8 years, of doing all the fun things I want to do.
Wake up and take full advantage of your day
Yeah.
if you can. I mean, I still do. Honestly, even if it's going to bring pain, I do it because it brings joy too. It's kind of like drinking. You love drinking. You love hanging out with your friends, but the next day you regret it.
Yes, I regret it.
And
It's actually been a week and I still regret it
Yeah.
since I've drank.
But then it's funny because if you have, like yesterday, I was literally incapacitated all day. I did not get out of bed because we had a company party and I had one too many shots. I probably should quit drinking, but I won't because it's very. I don't take. I'm not like a bad drinker. I just once a year it was a good time, but the entire day I had not gotten out of bed. I would go to get toast and I was like, oh my God, I got to go lay down. I couldn't even butter the toast.
Yeah.
But today I feel awesome. So I was like, wow,
Rest is important.
yeah, rest helps. I was like, I don't ever want to feel like that again. And I
But
feel
then we do
great
it.
today. I think I'm going to take off drinking for the next month, but it'll come back and we'll have fun again. But yeah.
So I wish we could have more time. We'll have to get on the podcast again soon. 'Cause
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much to talk about.
I know. And I feel bad because I gave you my entire history.
Well,
like,
no one knows.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah.
What's that called? Cool story, bro. CSB.
CSB. I've
It's
never
a-
heard of that.
It's a CSB. My story is important because all the people that I've encountered and worked with, I just wish that I can talk about them more.
Yeah.
And sometimes validation is the only way for somebody to hear it.
100%. Well, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah,
I hope you had a good time.
I'm honored.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
I feel like a blessed Long Beacher.
I'll see you at Bachelor Night.
Yeah, batch night.
I'll talk to you guys about that next
Worst
time.
show on earth, but a great time with friends.
Yes, exactly. All right. Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.